The Tennessee Titans must bring Matt LaFleur back to Nashville if the Green Bay Packers let him go. I'll give you the latest on the Tennessee Titans coaching search on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans. Today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is in playoff mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On today's show, I'm going to go over all the latest that you need to know in the Tennessee Titans coaching search as we head into Week 2. Number 1, the Tennessee Titans must bring Matt LaFleur in. If the Packers are dumb enough to let him go, he would immediately become my number 1 candidate by far over everybody else, and I'll tell you why. Also, the Tennessee Titans are finally getting into interviews with some candidates that we're excited about. I'll tell you why I still like Mike McCarthy and why I'm not as high on Mike McDaniel. Also, the Titans did their first round of interviews last week. I'll tell you all 7 people who did an interview and tell you why Kevin Stefanski is the only one out of the bunch that I'm interested in. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. The coaching search is heating up, and once a coach is hired, we got to talk about who's going to fill out their staff, then get to free agency, the draft. Make sure you stay locked in with the Locked On Titans podcast. But with all that being said, again, Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers collapsed against the Chicago Bears, and there were already whispers that Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers could be parting ways after the season due to a contract dispute. And if that is the case, then the Tennessee Titans need to move heaven and earth to get Matt LaFleur back to Nashville. There was an argument to be made that Matt LaFleur was the better head coach out of him and Mike Vrabel, and that the Tennessee Titans picked the wrong guy to be their head coach back in 2018. Now, I know a lot of people in the Titans fan base absolutely love Mike Vrabel, and they're not going to agree to that, but when you look at regular season win percentage, offensive performance, certain metrics, it's pretty clear that Matt LaFleur has been a better head coach in the NFL during their career so far as head coaches than Mike Vrabel has been. And that's why Mike LaFleur, his brother, Matt LaFleur, would immediately become my number 1 candidate for the Tennessee Titans head coaching job, far and away above anybody else who could even be in the conversation. John Harbaugh. Even if Mike Tomlin were to become available, I would take Matt LaFleur over Mike Tomlin, Mike McCarthy, Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniel, Kevin Stefanski, all these other guys that we talked about that I've liked. LaFleur would be far and away above those guys with a bullet, number 1 at the list. And why? Well, the answer is simple. There are just less flaws and less weaknesses with Matt LaFleur than any of the other candidates. Like, look at his win percentage. Some of you guys like to say, Kevin Stefanski, bad coach. Why would the Titans want Kevin Stefanski? Why would the Titans want Kliff Kingsbury? They have losing records as a head coach. Well, Matt LaFleur is one of the winningest head coaches in NFL history in the amount of time that he's actually been a head coach. He's got a .654 winning percentage in the regular season. Matt LaFleur is 76-40-1. 76-40-1. You cannot, like Kevin Stefanski, like Robert Saleh, like Kliff Kingsbury, and not like Matt LaFleur better. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. He's had 3 playoff wins. They've made the playoffs 6 out of the 7 seasons that he's been there, and that is just, hey, he's a winning coach who wins football games. You want to talk about offense and Cam Ward, everybody goes, oh, well, he won a lot of those games with Aaron Rodgers. Oh, he won a lot of those games with Jordan Love. Well, folks, just to tell you, there are people out there who compare Cam Ward's skill set to Aaron Rodgers. There are people out there who compared Cam Ward to Jordan Love coming out of college. That was their comp for Cam Ward. So if any quarterback or any coach is suited to get the best out of Cam Ward, it's probably the guy who got 2 MVPs for Aaron Rodgers and makes everybody think Jordan Love is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, which is something that I don't believe. I believe Matt LaFleur has gotten Jordan Love to play above what I think he was capable of. Now, we'll see if the Packers do move on from Matt LaFleur. I do not think that they will. I do not think that the Green Bay Packers will move on from Matt LaFleur. But if they do, then I guess we'll see how Jordan Love looks with the next guy. But what I do know is that during Matt LaFleur's tenure in Green Bay, they had 3 top 10 offenses, and should be 4. One of them was 11th, and that's in yards. And 5 out of 7 seasons, they've been top 10 in scoring. Not only that, but Matt LaFleur, comfortable in Nashville, has experience in the city from the time when he was the offensive coordinator. Not only that, but the connection to Chad Brinker and the relationship there could help the Titans as well. I mean, it would be a home run. Now, I know that some of you guys are saying right now, oh, that guy that just choked, that guy that just choked the game. Okay, that's fair enough. But his best player, Micah Parsons, got hurt, and they lost all 5 games after that. Micah Parsons got hurt. Packers didn't win another game the whole year. His best player got hurt, and they lost. Not only that, but the Packers kicker, Brandon McManus, missed 2 field goals and an extra point. That's 7 points in the game. The Packers should have won that game. Okay? Period. The kicker blew it. And that's without Micah Parsons out there. They were up 21-3 in a playoff game on the road as a 7 seed. Like, Matt LaFleur has had some struggles getting the special teams coordinator right. Matt LaFleur has had some struggles keeping things on track. But there is no way that someone who would be out here saying the Titans should hire John Harbaugh. The Titans should hire John. If you think the Titans should hire John Harbaugh, you cannot hate on Matt LaFleur. John Harbaugh is the most chokingest coach in the NFL over the last 17 years. No one has blown more leads than John Harbaugh in the last 17 years in the NFL as a head coach. No one. No one. A historic choker. An all-time choker in John Harbaugh. So you cannot like John Harbaugh and then not like Matt LaFleur. Don't work like that. Can't happen. So, I mean, whether it's the win percentage as a coach, which is truly indicative of future performance, there is data to suggest that. The offense and what he could do for Cam Ward, the familiarity with Nashville and the organization and the people in it, it is a home run slam dunk. But again, despite the noise, despite the conversation, I do not believe that Matt LaFleur will be available. The Packers aren't a bad organization. The Packers aren't that stupid. Like, I just refuse to believe it. I hope I'm wrong. I hope all of you guys are in my comments on Monday afternoon saying, oh, this guy's dumb. He said he wouldn't get fired, and he did. Good. I hope so. Now, on the other side of that, tons of noise about John Harbaugh this weekend for the Tennessee Titans. Tons of noise. The latest on John Harbaugh, who, again, I just said he's, all-time lead blower, all-time choker, and that's true. But at the end of the day, Harbaugh still is my number 2 option for the Tennessee Titans. No coach is perfect. None of these coaching candidates are perfect because people aren't perfect, right? Right? And people who hold people to perfection standards, unrealistic and probably childish. But regardless, Harbaugh has said, and multiple national reporters have reported on behalf of him, that Harbaugh is going to take 3 to 4 interviews out of the openings that he's actually interested in. And all indications say that the Titans are very high on his list of interest. He watched Cam Ward and Jackson Dart tape over the weekend. He was studying the tape of the young quarterbacks. And it's been reported by Albert Breer. Diana Rossini had the Cam Ward tape report. Breer said that the Titans have a, quote, real shot. Now, I got to tell you the honest truth, guys, and a lot of Titans fans won't like to hear this. But the reality is John Harbaugh is going to want to be paid as one of the top 5 coaches in the entire NFL. There's some rumors that suggest he wants $20 million a year. I don't really care about those rumors. I don't know that I believe those rumors. But it doesn't take a rumor or a report for a logical person to say, oh, John Harbaugh has a Super Bowl. He's been a really good coach for 17, 18 years. He's going to want to be paid very well at the top of the market. Like, you don't got to pay attention to rumors and reports if you're logical and know the NFL to know that. So John Harbaugh is going to want to get paid a lot of money, okay? And my personal opinion is, and again, I'd love to be proven wrong and for John Harbaugh to be the coach of the Titans, But my opinion is John Harbaugh is using the Tennessee Titans as leverage against the New York Giants because he actually wants to go to the New York Giants, who are a much more competitive roster with a much more with a much more cash-rich owner. I think Harbaugh is using the Titans, who are a great destination. You don't use a crappy destination as leverage because then the person will just say, oh, come on, that's a crappy destination. You only use another good option as leverage. So I personally don't think that Matt LaFleur will be fired. I don't think that John Harbaugh will pick the Titans. I think it's kind of a leverage play to get more money out of the Giants, in my opinion. But again, those are by far my favorite head coach options for the Tennessee Titans, and I certainly hope that I am wrong on at least one of those accounts, because if Matt LaFleur does become available, I do think, 100% I do think, Matt LaFleur would be the next Tennessee Titans coach. Too much connective tissue, makes too much sense with Cam Ward, Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker. Bring me Matt LaFleur if the Packers are dumb enough to fire him. But with that being said, if we're not talking about Matt LaFleur, we're not talking about John Harbaugh, then we got to talk about the guys who did get interview requests, because the last time I talked to you guys, we talked about the embarrassing first week that the Tennessee Titans had in the head coaching search, but week 2 is about to get a lot better. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or you're jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and Prize Picks lets you stay in control. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups on player projections. No drafting, no waiting, just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats and play your way. I love Prize Picks because they have awesome features. They have a flex play feature where you can still get paid even if one of your picks miss. Sorry about that. And their new early payout feature is a game changer, because if a player gets hot to start, you can cash out before the game ends. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Today's episode is sponsored by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood's prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. And now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swap trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, getting you guys up to date on everything you need to know heading into week 2 of the Tennessee Titans head coaching search. We talked about my top 2 potential candidates, Matt LaFleur, if he is let go by the Green Bay Packers, and then John Harbaugh with the former head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, with some big news that'll probably happen on Monday morning. He's going to reveal his 3 to 4 teams, and I do expect the Tennessee Titans to be in that mix. But now we need to talk about all of the new interview requests that the Tennessee Titans had to get new head coaching candidates in the building in week 2. Before we dive in, thanks again for making Locked On Titans your first listen. And I also want to say this. We'll move on to the content, but thank you all so much for your kind words and your appreciation, and not just on YouTube, but on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere. You know, you guys were so courteous and so kind with the event that I dealt with last week with my dog passing on. I cannot thank you all enough for the well wishes and the kind words. Thank you so much. It did truly mean a lot to me to hear from all of you guys. But with that being said, the Titans finally requested Mike McCarthy. Finally, we got a request. And Mike McCarthy, I found it interesting. Mike McCarthy's in-person interview with the Tennessee Titans will take place on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday. And right now, as things stand, we'll probably get more information throughout the week, but as things stand, that is the latest scheduled interview that the Tennessee Titans currently have. Every other virtual or in-person or whatever has either already happened or is set to happen this week during the work week. Mike McCarthy is the last interview they currently have on the schedule. I expect that to change, but I do find it interesting because that could tell us that Mike McCarthy is who they actually want, and they're going to save him to last so that they can go through everybody and give them an opportunity to change their mind. Hey, we want Mike McCarthy. Let's talk to everybody else before, and then when we get done, we talk to Mike McCarthy last. If we weren't impressed by anybody before him, then we go with the guy that we wanted all along, and we have Mike McCarthy. Now, I will tell you this. With John Harbaugh coming on the market, with Kevin Stefanski coming on the market, with Matt LaFleur potentially hitting the market, all those guys would be over Mike McCarthy for me, who was my original number one pick before the firing started in the NFL and before Black Monday hit. So Mike McCarthy's still a very, very good option in my mind, but certainly has moved down the list. And I think that some of these other coaches, John Harbaugh also has a Super Bowl win, but has been more productive and more consistent as a coach as of late. Matt LaFleur doesn't have a Super Bowl win, but has been a better head coach in the NFL over the last 7 years than Mike McCarthy was, and is a much younger player who can grow, or much younger coach who can grow with Cam Ward over the 62-year-old Mike McCarthy. So those are my reasonings there. And Kevin Stefanski, same thing as Matt LaFleur. It's the same conversation of a young offensive head coach who I still think is a very good head coach, but is younger so he can grow with Cam Ward and is maybe more modernized in his NFL approach. But regardless, I would still love Mike McCarthy as the head coach for the Tennessee Titans. I just think there are better options, whereas, just a week ago, there weren't better options. But Mike McCarthy will get an interview, and with all the hubbub about Mike McCarthy and all of that I've spoken to quite a bit over the last couple of days, that was good news to hear. Not only that, Kliff Kingsbury, who is one of my favorite candidates to be the Tennessee Titans' next head coach. I know a lot of people do not like Kliff Kingsbury. I understand that there are concerns about him being able to lead a football team, about schematically the second half of seasons. Sometimes his offenses aren't as productive. That's been a thing all the way back to college with Kliff Kingsbury. Again, there are no perfect candidates available. Human beings are not perfect, and all of these coaches have upsides and downsides. If you are unable, if you cannot say, oh, this coach does this well, this coach doesn't do that well, if you aren't able to point out one good thing and one bad thing about every single head coaching candidate, I'm sorry, but you are illogical, you're immature, you're childish, because that's not reality. If you think that there's a perfect candidate or a candidate with nothing going for him, that's just not the case. That just can't be the case. That's not an accurate, intelligent way to view these people. It's how I feel about, players. If you can't name one thing that a player needs to improve on or doesn't do well, then you are not a smart evaluator, because nobody is perfect and every player has strengths and weaknesses. So keep that in mind. But Kliff Kingsbury, like Mike McCarthy, is a free agent. They aren't on a team. They aren't employed. So they are going to have in-person interviews with their first interview, not a virtual. Now, the next guy that got an interview request from the Tennessee Titans is maybe one of the more polarizing candidates that we could talk about, and it's Mike McDaniel, who was just fired by the Miami Dolphins. Me personally, I know there's a lot of people out there who love the idea of Mike McDaniel as the head coach for the Tennessee Titans. I am going to push back on that. Mike McDaniel is not head coach material, in my opinion. His biggest weaknesses as a coach are the things that the Tennessee Titans need the most: leadership, culture. And I know that there's videos out there of, Mike McDaniel's former, I think I saw Teron Armstead, one of their former offensive linemen, saying nice things about him. And I'm not surprised by that. I think that Mike McDaniel is not a terrible coach. It's not like all of his players hate him. But look at what happened in Miami. Jalen Ramsey revolted. Yeah, Ramsey is a bit of a diva, but it's not like he's revolted on every coach that he's ever had, okay? Tyreek Hill revolted and was, doing crazy. Now, Tyreek Hill's pretty crazy. I get that too, but I'm just saying. Tua was acting out all year long at press conferences and saying weird stuff, like telling Cam Newton, oh, if you could do it, you would. Get out on the field and it's different. Well, Cam Newton won MVP. Tua, just zero control over his players. If you look at the Miami Dolphins season, they made so many mental errors in critical moments, and it wasn't just young players, it was their captains, Jordan Brooke, Zach Zeiler, players on offense, their Tua making a bad interception. Their captains, their leaders made the dumbest mistakes of any players on their team. That to me is a leadership problem with the coach. I would be overjoyed, over the moon, infatuated with the idea of Mike McDaniel being an offensive coordinator for the Titans with a defensive-minded head coach like the guys we're about to talk about here in a second. But Mike McDaniel as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, absolutely out on that. Do not think that would be a good idea. Do I hate Mike McDaniel as the head coach as much as I hate some of the guys who the Titans already talked to? No, don't get me wrong. It's not, I would be like, okay, I guess we'll see. He does have creative offenses. He could probably make Cam Ward look pretty good. But, I'm not going to sit here and say disaster, like I tend to do. But it's not, Mike McDaniel's not high on my list as a head coach. Now, if he were the offensive coordinator, then, I'd take my shirt off and twist around my head like a helicopter because that would be absolutely incredible. Now, outside, and again, that'll be an in-person interview for Mike McDaniel since he has been fired. So, first one, and if you didn't know this, Mike McDaniel is biracial. So, the Titans have already interviewed Raheem Morris. They're interviewing on Monday in person. And then when Mike McDaniel is interviewed in person, because the Rooney Rule must be in-person interviews, not virtual. So with Mike McDaniel and Raheem Morris by Wednesday or Thursday, whenever the Titans finish their interview with Mike McDaniel, they'll officially have satisfied the Rooney Rule requirements for the NFL, and they can actually legally hire their head coach at that point in time. So I'll update you when that actually happens, but something to keep in mind with Mike McDaniel is, although it doesn't seem like it and some may not realize that, Mike McDaniel is biracial and would there, in fact, satisfy the Rooney Rule as the second candidate that the Titans have interviewed. Now, Robert Saleh is another guy who would also satisfy that rule. Now, I don't say that. Some of you guys are disingenuous and obtuse and try to act like when I inform you about the Rooney Rule requirements and where the Titans are at with that in their search, that means that I don't believe these candidates are worthy. That is absolutely false. That is absolutely not the case. Robert Saleh would be one of my favorite hires. I think right now, my updated list, he would be my number 5 candidate for the Tennessee Titans. Robert Saleh has been requested for an in-person interview, for an interview in general. The thing is, I'm recording this right now without knowing whether San Francisco beat Philadelphia or whether Philly beat San Francisco. So whether Saleh is able to do an in-person interview this week or whether it has to be virtual because they're still in, that remains to be determined. But either way, the Tennessee Titans will talk with Robert Saleh this week, and I love that as an option. He was my number 2 favorite candidate behind Mike McCarthy before some of the other names got put on the market with the firing. So those are like the experienced guys who have been previous head coaches, and then we get to the young guns. The young, hot defensive coordinators. Chris Shula got a virtual request. He's the defensive coordinator from the Rams. Jesse Minter is the defensive coordinator for the Chargers. He got a request. Jeff Hafley for the Green Bay Packers got a request, and Hafley's interview can now be in person because the Packers lost. All 3 of those guys, hot defensive coordinators who haven't been, and I mean like their names are hot, you lunatics out there thinking I'm talking about they're good looking or whatever. I mean, hey, I don't know, you want to say they're good looking or not, but you know what I'm saying. They're buzzy, okay? But let me just say this. I'm interested in these DCs. I don't think that they're terrible options. They're not at the top of my list, but I wouldn't absolutely hate these guys. I would take a Shula, a Minter, a Hafley far before I took a Morris, a Nagy, a Joseph, and some of the other guys that we're going to talk about from the first round of interviews. So keep in mind what I'm saying here when I say this, but I want to make this point about these coordinators. So, this is what happens in the internet age, okay? A little soapbox moment for you. Whatever you did last is how good you are to the internet. you could go 100 straight games with 5 touchdown passes and 100 wins. You could win 100 games in a row with 5 touchdown passes every single game. But the moment you lose a game, the internet's going to say you suck. Oh, he's not as good as we thought. Oh, this guy's a bozo. That's the way the internet works. That's how it works nowadays. Microwave brains is what everybody has. So just because Chris Shula's defense wasn't dominant against Carolina, or just because Matt LaFleur just lost in a choke job to the Bears, the last thing that happened doesn't define people. Cam Ward has a bad game. It doesn't erase the 5 good games he had before that. You have to look at things in the totality, not just what happened last. If I go to my favorite restaurant all the time, and then one day I go and they do a poor job, I get bad service, my steak is overcooked, they forget one of the items, something's wrong, whatever. That doesn't mean that the last 10 times I came to this restaurant were also bad and now it's not my favorite restaurant anymore. Life is not perfect. People are not perfect. They're not going to be great every single time. Now, I'm not here to tell you that, hey, if Chris Shula's Rams defense gets absolutely destroyed in their next game, and, maybe that is not a good sign, because the next guy we're going to talk about, the last guy from this group, maybe we should have taken his last performance as a sign. But I'm just saying, those of you who are like, oh, did you just see Carnell Tate not have a game? Oh, did you just see Arvell Reese didn't have a good game? Oh, did you just see Dante Moore from Oregon didn't have a good game? Now he can't declare. He can't come out and be a pro. Like, the last thing that happened isn't the only thing that happened. So I can't take people who get in the comments and say, did you see Chris Shula's defense against the Panthers? We can't hire him. Okay, so the entire regular season and everything that Chris Shula's defense has done and everything who he is as a coach and a person, none of that matters anymore because the Panthers scored 27 points and the Rams still won. It's just illogical, it's childish, and I hope that most of you listening aren't that microwaved brain to think like that. But with that being said, the last name of the new interviews that the Titans put out was Arthur Smith. And like I joked about, Arthur Smith, Titans scored 13 points, their season low against the Ravens in the last game that Arthur Smith was with the Tennessee Titans, and maybe that was foreshadowing. I say that tongue-in-cheek, you know what I mean, but I have zero interest in Art Smith. I think that is one of the most laughable options that there is. This guy does not know how to use his best players. He does not know how to have a diverse offense outside of a heavy tight end look. He is overly dependent on the run game and isn't creative enough in the passing game down the field. I have no interest in Arthur Smith. He is not a leader. He is not a smart offensive mind. I am so totally out. He is just a run-of-the-mill, average to below average offensive coordinator. He will never be more than that. I am out on Arthur Smith entirely. Could not be any less interested in Arthur Smith. But with that in mind, let me know how you would rank all of those candidates who are getting interviews this week with the Tennessee Titans. Now we got to go over the list of candidates that just got interviews with the Tennessee Titans. And the reality is, I think there's only one good candidate out of the 7. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The wild card round is here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel is users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets that you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. Plus, the boosts give you more juice on the bets that you already like instead of forcing you to bet on something new. Make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We talked about Matt LaFleur's situation, John Harbaugh's situation with the Tennessee Titans. Those are my top two names to watch. We talked about the new interview request that the Tennessee Titans went with in week 2 of their coaching search. Mike McCarthy, Kliff Kingsbury, Robert Saleh, my top names out of that list, along with Chris Shula, who I'm very interested in. I'm starting to warm up on Jeff Hafley as well. He was really cooking Ben Johnson late or early in that game, even if the Bears ended up coming back. What an incredible start to the NFL playoffs as well. Great football games all over the place. But speaking of not great, the Tennessee Titans' first round of interviews in their head coaching search, I called it embarrassing last week, and it absolutely was. But now that we have the totality, the Titans have officially announced who they met with, we can kind of review the list and talk about what might be the reasons for that. And number one on the list for me is Kevin Stefanski. Former Browns head coach. When he was fired, he immediately rocketed up to my number one head coaching candidate for the Titans. Previous head coaching experience, has dealt with a less than ideal organization, probably knows how to navigate those waters, even though I think the Titans are a far less dramatic organization than the Cleveland Browns behind the scenes. Like, Amy Adams Strunk is nowhere near as crazy and wild and impactful, like trying to make people do certain stuff, as the Haslams. I'm sorry, that's just not the case. So, experience, dealt with that kind of organization, offensive coach who can get the best out of a quarterback, took old man Joe Flacco to 11-5, Baker Mayfield to the playoffs in his second year. I'm a big fan of Kevin Stefanski. He met with the Tennessee Titans on Saturday. And I think that one thing that we have to take into account here is with the Baltimore Ravens coming open, if the Green Bay Packers opening comes open, those are better jobs than the Titans. Okay, those are better jobs. And the more, I know that sounds like, oh, well, the more that good job openings come open, that means less for the Titans. But there are so many good candidates now. These teams can't hire multiple people. So if John Harbaugh goes to the Packers and the New York Giants want to hire Mike McCarthy, well, that leaves a lot of great candidates for the Titans. And I got to tell you, folks, the Titans are one of the top half of the job openings. The Titans are an attractive job opening to potential head coaches because of Cam Ward and Mike Borgonzi. No state taxes, new stadium coming, an owner that's going to have to be more patient because she's got egg on her face because of the last few years. Mike Borgonzi and the new coach are going to get a massive amount of patience that has not been afforded to Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon. Because Amy Armstrong has no choice but to give more patience because she looks impulsive and all that. So the Titans have to do that. You know what I mean? So I think that makes it better for the Titans. I know that seems counterproductive and counterintuitive, but I think it actually makes it better for the Titans because they're going to get somebody good because they're one of the top options. And there are quite a few top options as coaches. So with that in mind, Stefanski met with the Titans on Saturday for an in-person interview. He is by far and away the best name of the first round because the other guys are Raheem Morris, who just got fired by the Falcons, who couldn't take, if he can't take that Falcons roster to the playoffs, how's he supposed to take the Titans? What are we talking about here? And then Matt Nagy. Nagy's gotten quite a few interviews. I have talked ad nauseum about why you need to say no to Matt Nagy. If you don't know why I don't want Matt Nagy, I don't know what to go back and watch the episodes, watch the short video. I've been as open as I can be about my distaste for Matt Nagy and why I don't think he's qualified. Vance Joseph is an option. I don't want an old defensive coach. I'm out on that. Same thing. Steve Spagnuolo, 66 years old. Not a chance. I'm hiring a 66-year-old defensive head coach to get the best out of Cam Ward. No, we're not doing that. Lou Anarumo, same thing. 60-year-old defensive coordinator. Wasn't that good in Indianapolis. Only had a few spurts of things in Cincinnati when they were really carried by a great offense. So out on Lou Anarumo. Jason Garrett, laughable. Like I said, Mike McCoy, that was a courtesy. Absolutely laughable. Now, could Matt Nagy be the offensive coordinator with a Jesse Minter or a Jeff Hafley? Sure. Could Raheem Morris be a defensive coordinator with Chris Shula, Jesse Minter, Mike McDaniel, Kliff Kingsbury, Mike McCarthy? Sure. Could Jason Garrett be a quarterback coach on one of these staffs? Sure. But as a head coach? What are we talking about here? I mean, what are we actually talking about? So that is the absolute latest with everything you need to know about the Tennessee Titans head coaching search. I would imagine with interviews and everything kicking off here, we're going to get even more news throughout the week. Make sure that you stay locked in with the Locked On Titans podcast. But again, thank you all so much for the well wishes. I'm not going to act like, everything's okay. I'm struggling. I'm sad. It's tough, as a lot of you guys know. But regardless, all of your well wishes, your kind words, all of that, your prayer requests, it really does mean a lot to me. So thank you, everybody. But that's going to do it for me today, folks. As always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.